In this video, we will use the calculator to find the zeros of a quadratic function. In the y equals button of the calculator, I'm going to put 0 as my first equation. Since we're looking for the zeros, that's where our parabola crosses the x-axis. Y equals 0 is the equation for the x-axis, so we're really just asking for it to give us the intersection with the equation y equals 0. Now, I always put y equals 0 as the first equation, really for two reasons. First, I can just leave it there, not have to worry about it, and just keep changing out my second equation. And secondly, and probably more importantly, when my cursor is moving during the second trace intersection function, it's going to move along the first equation. So if my first equation is the parabola, it's not that big a deal, but it has to move down and around. And if my parabola goes way down, sometimes I lose track of where my cursor is. So I found that if I just put it on the first one, it does go easier. So to find the zeros, I'm going to use the calc function of the calculator. So if you look right here above the trace key, you'll see written in blue the word calc. So to access the blue, I'm going to press the second button and then the trace key, and that brings up my calculator menu. And what I'm wanting it to do is to find the intersection. So I'm going to press second trace 5. And that brings me up the intersection. You'll notice that my cursor right now is sitting at the origin. Now, there are actually two intersections on this screen because my parabola intersects y equals 0 two different places. Now, the way the calculator determines which intersection it's going to find is it's using this cursor. Whichever intersection is closer to the cursor is the one it figures out. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move my cursor all the way over here to the left using my arrow keys. And when I get it pretty close or on it, it doesn't have to be exact, it's just got to be closest. Then I'm going to press enter 3 times. And when I press enter 3 times at the bottom of my screen, it tells me what the intersection is. So now I can look at it and see that the intersection for this one is -2. But that's only one intersection, and we need to get both of our zeros. So I'm going to start again. I'm going to press second trace 5. And when I bring it up, notice that my cursor is still on the first 0. That's pretty much where I left it. So I'm going to use my arrow key and move my cursor all the way over and get it pretty close to on top of my second 0. And then I'm going to press enter 3 times. The first time I press enter, it's going to tell me second curve, then it's going to tell me guess, and finally it gets to intersection. Now, this is where I find students have trouble after they've been doing this a couple of times and they get used to it. They stop paying attention to the words here at the bottom. A lot of times they'll just do second trace 5 and go, ooh, there's my answer, not realizing it still says first curve. Or if your finger stutters or you're distracted and you only press enter twice instead of 3 times, and it stops at guess. So just double check each time that the word intersection is written there before you write down the answer. Now, we used a very simple equation last time. You could see the answers without going through that process. I did that just so you could double check that you were doing everything correctly. But the real power comes when you have an equation that when you graph it, you can tell this thing does not cross at even whole numbers, or it doesn't cross at whole numbers. It's crossing at the decimals somewhere. So there's where the power really comes in on the calculator. So we look at this and we say, okay, we can't see our answer from just looking at the graph. So I'm going to press the second trace 5 to pull up my intersection. So after I press the second trace 5, I need to move my cursor from the middle over to my left 0, and then I'm going to press enter 3 times and verify that it says intersection, and so I can see the left intersection answer. Now to get my second 0, again, I have to press second trace 5, and then move my cursor over to the right 0, and press enter 3 times. As soon as I verify that it says intersection at the bottom, then I know I have my second answer of approximately 1.298. Now the biggest issue that you may run into after you've gotten familiar with this process is your calculator getting stuck on the screen where it says second curve. And I have students come up, help, it's not working, it's broken, it won't go past second curve. This happens a lot after you get comfortable with the process. And all that's happening is that you didn't put in a second equation in y equals. So you asked your calculator to give you an intersection and you only had one line. You forgot to put in the equation for the x-axis. So just go back to your y equals. 99.9% of the time this is the problem. So go back to your y equals and you'll see you only have one equation in. Go ahead and put your other equation in as y equals 0. Everything should work great. If that doesn't fix it, my next fallback for fixing the calculator is to reset it and start over.